I found a new way to waste my time. Someone flew a plane over Metro Boston in 1938 with a camera, so here I am in Google Earth at 1 a.m., clicking. Back and forth, back and forth. A lot has changed, but still so much of it is eerily familiar. Roads I've driven, buildings I know. I know the broad strokes of the history. I spend so much time thinking about buildings when I'm out in the day, I can tell what decade most were built in, but still it's hard for me not to get lost in this cold winter morning or evening in 1938. Most old aerials are after snowfall, early or late in the day, to make the buildings more visible. The rivers are frozen, and the trees bare. Over time, some rivers have changed their course, and tidal flats have been swept around. But these are nothing compared to Logan Airport. I wonder what it was like in this bay before the airport. What was the view across the bay from Winthrop like? Through these photos, I see the train used to loop out here, swooping out over the water. The little built-up areas around the stations are still there, but the traces of their route are only visible from up here. Here they planned streets that would be trampled by a runway, an ancient fort. You can still see the remains of this main road, split up. What an unbelievably wasteful thing to wonder, I think, stuck on what the names of these streets could have been. I get an eerie feeling on the edges of the suburbs as I switch back and forth, seeing these freshly laid roads on farmland. This is a different world. Pastoral New England has been dead around Boston for a long time. Somehow this foreign landscape makes more sense to me, that a city should end, equal parts urban, suburban, and rural. For now, builders look out over open fields, seemingly unaware that if everyone has a country house, there can be no country. Seeing this moment makes me irrationally anxious for a day when no square mile is untouched. Before I remember, this day has almost certainly already passed. But for now, everything is just as it was. A racetrack fated to be overgrown, lost little houses in the woods, a dump on an island watched over by a four-masted schooner long before it would become a park. I keep looking at little coastlines and hills like they're the last photo of a stranger boarding a doomed plane. The landscape is already incredibly altered in 38, but part of me is somehow shocked when I click and the expansions continue. But more than the destruction of these little corners of nature, the other cost of our decision to build out draws me in with a pull I cannot resist. First it's wider roads, then highways, and then whole places disappear. And I know the story. I've seen pictures, but it's weird to see these lost places overlaid on lots I've driven past. In particular, I look at the small city of Lynn, the way it builds from houses to apartments to the bustling downtown. It feels so close I could touch it. Corner stores, apartments, little walks through a neighborhood, and in a click, I'm left with something more recognizable. The buildings left feel naked. Walking past, their broadsides loom awkwardly over parked cars, laying low as canvases for modern murals. And no amount of reason or understanding can stop me from clicking and clicking at the roller coaster on the beach. Wikipedia says it was the tallest in the world when built. And the empty lots. Boston's housing crisis is worse than most. In 38, we were already building out, not up, but I wonder if these people thought the city centers they saw rise would halt in their tracks like they did. It's easy to spot the apartments built since 38. They hide out from the street, built in forgotten corners. They're spaced out, glass and plastic. Even as cheap as they are, many struggle to be financed. I think good words when I see them. Necessary, relief, infill, transit-oriented, but these words still feel gray and dull next to antiquated solutions. Finally, I meander my way downtown to see a story I can already recite. The places I can recognize and the places I don't. It's taken me a long time to understand that the American city has always meant continual reinvention. That to see Beaux Arts Manhattan isn't to see a singular triumph, but a self-consuming snake, defined by its eagerness to build, not its ability to admire. But when Theseus questions the necessity of the ship in the first place, the equation is thrown off. From familiar streets, I imagine my walk continuing onto winding colonial roads I've never set foot on, finding their natural conclusions. Looking from 38, these narrow streets had seen already countless alterations, fires and reinventions, but never has such meteoric progress sacrificed more and yielded less. For all the roundabout ways I love the brutalist, modernist, and contemporary, something innate in me panics at the diminishing supply of these old places. For all 200 square miles, there are few earnest additions to this type of place. And the replacement spaces. Yes, they address different needs and rise to repair the problems of their predecessors, but for all this future-proofing, it's hard not to notice how many of these offices have now emptied out, and how cavernous these streets feel. I can't tell how loud these old places were, how dirty, dark, how long people could continue to care about their crumbling cornices and chipped plasterwork. But it's late, and I'm no economist, so I stare through gray blotches, trying to invent worlds where vinyl siding is never invented. And I have to remind myself of the derangement that is staring down tenements and pollution-stained warehouses in a bitterly racist and painfully unequal old city as some form of escapism. To see a point in time and imagine it as a branch towards myriad possibilities, not the point on the line that it proved to be. Boston fares better than most. It's perhaps why I know to look so keenly. It's a dangerous affinity, to associate with buildings and places built and allowed to fall into disrepair long before I was born into them, from a time with which I share no common values. I feel I can understand these two places, and that thought makes me all the more feverish in my anxious observations of that third place, some future city plotted on a line I hope to hell I can't predict.